Hey, Year 6, welcome to your English lesson, Monday the 1st of February, still. So it was going to have changed since you watched the Big Read video, but there we go. Maybe you watch this one first, in which case, Monday the 1st of February, and then I'll say it to you again in Big Read. So let's have a bit of a look at some starter questions then. I said it to you before when we did some past SATs. We're not doing the SATs, we know that. However, being able to answer these sort of questions is always good. It's always useful. It also puts these sort of terms back in our head. It refreshes our mind, keeps us sharp, keeps us on the ball. So, first one, top one there. Complete the sentence below with a relative clause. Remember to punctuate your answer correctly. There are lots of options for what you could do, but it needs to be that sentence. So, his sister, comma, insert your relative clause, comma, is learning to speak Polish. You want to see those written out, fully punctuated and correctly punctuated, please. Underneath that, the second one. Tick to show which sentence uses the past progressive. Like I say, useful starters for recapping. We did past progressive last week. So hopefully you should have that relatively fresh in your mind. Right, pause the video and then I'll show you what the answers could be. Obviously the first one, there's lots of options. The second one, I'll show you what the answer is and explain why. Speak to you in a moment. Okay, so that top one, insert a relative clause. Well, I went with his sister, comma, who is 2 years, that should say. Oh, I'd have not got the mark there because that's not good grammar. His sister, who is 2 years older than him, is learning to speak Polish. Anything that starts with that relative pronoun and then makes sense gets you the mark, as long as it's spelt right and as long as you remember to punctuate it. So it could be his sister. I think who is, it's kind of got to be who for this one, I would have thought. But what you've said after the who, that's completely up to you. Because you're not going to use whilst, while, whom. You might use whom, I suppose, but you're not going to use whom realistically. So I think who has got to be the right one because it's not going to be that. Because when we're referring to a person, who is the correct relative pronoun to use. So you can have put who and then whatever you want. As long as you've done that, it would be correct. This one here, the answer is Gemma was doing her science homework. Remember, those past progressive tenses always need a was or a were, and then they need to convert the verb to being an ing at the end of it. So Gemma was doing. Gemma and her sister were doing. It would be if there were more than one of them. So you're looking for the was and you're looking for the ing when you're talking about the past progressive tense. Okay, let's have a look then at the main activity for today. So, oh no, we are going to do a quick recap actually. So last week on Friday, you were looking at using those different Alan Peat sentence types, and we looked at lots and lots of different ones. So I wrote a paragraph there, and I want you to see if you can remember which of the techniques were being used. So, scared and shaken, nervous and startled, Elliot watched on helpless as Thanatos shook Virgo. Which one of those techniques was being used there? Have a go at saying it out loud if you're at home. Tell your partners around you if you're in school. It was the two pairs sentence type. Okay. The more he wanted to help, the more it became clear to him that it was useless or that he was useless. What's being used there? Tell your partners or say it out loud at home. It is the more, the more. Some people might have turned to flee at this point. Others, like Elliot, would dig deeper to find an answer. What's being used in this one? Say it out loud, tell your partners. It is some and others, with the semicolon splitting the two up because they're both main clauses. Next one. When he finally thought there was nothing he could do, when it looked like it was over for Virgo, when he was about to admit he was beaten, then Elliot realised what he had to do. What am I using there? Which of those Alan Peat techniques? Absolutely. When, then. Three main clauses separated by semicolons and a comma to add on a subordinate clause at the end. Really powerful techniques there. If you're in class, you can do this. If you're at home, I'll have to trust you. So you can send me in a message saying if you got it or not. Try saying out loud, I've just gone through 4, but there were 5, weren't there, Alan Peake sentences? Can you say out loud which one I didn't use in my paragraph? If you manage it, if you're in school, Miss Barrett can either do you track it points or dojos, whatever she wants. If you send me in a message telling me you got it right, I'll give you some dojos from home as well. Okay, so that was our recap. And we were using that to really build our narrative, to really help characterize our characters, funnily enough. And they're really powerful techniques. They also help us use those higher order pieces of punctuation, like the semicolon, coincidentally, because the woke today is to use semicolons in our writing. I know, right? It's almost as though somebody planned these things and they flowed into each other beautifully. So yeah, and I did, and they do. So we're using semicolons in our writing today. That's what we're aiming to do. And what I'll be looking for is that you're clearly understanding how to use a semicolon correctly to connect 2 main clauses, that you're adding semicolons into existing sentences, and that you're writing sentences that use a semicolon for different circumstances. So let's have a look at how that could work. Let's start with the basic. Here's a semicolon. You don't need your semicolon to have eyes, a hand, and a hat. It can just be the basic semicolon, but it's a bit more fun this way. So let's have a bit of a look. And we're going to be looking at how to use a semicolon. And there are 2 instances when we use a semicolon. And you've seen both of those in those Alan Peake sentences, actually. You're either using a semicolon when you're listing things, but the things in that list are not just single word items. So if you're listing multi-word or clauses, then you would use a semicolon to connect them. The second point there, you are also going to use a semicolon when you are linking 2 very closely related main clauses. You are not just sticking semicolons in to connect up any main clauses you fancy. They've got to be closely connected. If you think back to the Alan Peake sentences, each of them is about a thing. It's to build a character. It's all about exactly the same subject, really. A full stop separates, but a semicolon pulls together. So you need the things you're pulling together to be closely related. Let's look at that in a bit more detail. So here's an example of that first way of using a semicolon, and that's listing clauses or listing multi-word items. So to become a better sports person, you need to follow certain rules. Semicolon to start the list. Always commit fully to your training. That's the first item. So then a semicolon instead of a comma to separate our list. Observe others and learn from their strengths and their weaknesses. That's the second item. Semicolon to split it up. Maintain a healthy and balanced diet. And, just like you would in a comma list, always before the last item on the list, you then use the and. And set yourself challenging but manageable goals. So that is listing the items of more than 1 word. So listing clauses, really. I feel like I've got a sneeze coming. Oh, I do hate it when that happens. Ruined the sneeze. It will come at some point, I'm sure. So the second way of using that semicolon is to connect 2 main clauses. It seemed like an absolute age since the schools had been fully open. They'd been closed since December, but it felt like much longer. Because they're both sentences all about how long it feels since schools were open, and they lead into each other nicely, you would connect them with a semicolon. You don't need to split them with a full stop, but they're both full main clauses. Each of those could be said on its own and still make complete sense. Each of those contains everything a sentence needs. It contains its subject, its verb, and its object. So they still need to be held together with something stronger than a comma, which means a semicolon is the only choice. So that is how you connect 2 main clauses. The second way that we use semicolons. Let's have a go then. Let's see if we can put that into practice. Just move that out. Well, in fact, you don't need to see it. It just says connecting 2 main clauses. Oh, my head can be in the way. So, as you can see, where that full stop would usually separate the 2 main clauses, we're connecting it together because it's a main clause. So they need to be held together with a semicolon, which is stronger than a comma. We can see it's a main clause there because, as it says, it seemed like an absolute age since the schools had been fully open. If I then put a full stop, that would be a perfectly good sentence. It's also a subordinate clause in there as well. So that's the nice thing about the semicolon. Because you're connecting two main clauses, those main clauses can still have a subordinate clause as well. It can become a really complex sentence quite quickly. You just need to remember to punctuate it correctly. Right, let's let you have a go. So all I want you to do is I want you to read over those 4 sentences, and I want you to say, is the semicolon in them being used correctly or incorrectly? And you can tick the box. As ever, obviously you've not got a printed copy of this, so you would have to write it out in your books and then tick them. That's absolutely fine though. I've seen some beautifully neat boxes and tables and stuff being drawn. It looks fantastic in your books, which we will get you to bring back in when you do return to school at some point so that we can have that evidence. So do draw them out. Have a think, look really carefully, think about those rules for using semicolons, and then tick whether it's being used correctly or incorrectly. When you do that, and when you've done that, should I say, start the video up again, and I'll go through whether they're used correctly or incorrectly. Speak to you in a moment. Okay, first one. Having walked for hours on end, Jamal's feet were absolutely killing him. That is incorrect. I wonder if anyone can write down at home for me why it is incorrect. If you're in school, have a discussion. What makes it incorrect? So, I'll tell you. If you didn't have time to discuss it, pause the video just before I explain it. Having walked for hours on end, Jamal's feet were absolutely killing him. Now, Jamal's feet were absolutely killing him is a main clause. But having walked for hours on end is a subordinate clause. So we don't need a semicolon splitting those up. A comma on its own is absolutely fine. Second one then, the fruit bowl contained apples, pears, bananas, grapes, and 1 kiwi. We've got a nice list. It's got the and in the right place. It's still incorrect. It's incorrect because commas can separate that list. That list is only containing 1-word items. So that can be, put my teeth back in, that word can be separated by commas. You don't need semicolons. This third one. Winter was her favourite season. She loved snow and thought that everywhere looked so much nicer with a dusting of ice or frost. That one is spot on. Each of those are main clauses. Winter was her favourite season. Simple sentence. She loved snow and thought that everywhere looked so much nicer with a dusting of ice or frost. Compound sentence. Both of them work absolutely fine as main clauses. So they need to be connected with a semicolon. And they can be connected with a semicolon because both of them are referencing this person's love of winter and closely linked. Final one. The rain was absolutely torrential. The windows were shaking with the force of the droplets. It's incorrect. It would be right if the semicolon had been put in the right place because there are 2 main clauses there. The rain was absolutely torrential. That's a main clause. The windows were shaking with the force of the droplets. That's the main clause. The semicolon would need to come in between the word torrential and the word the. Then it would have been correct. So the semicolon is the right punctuation to use. They've just put it in the wrong place. And by they've, I mean me. So hopefully you got those right, which shows already that you are understanding how to use semicolons. Now let's put it into practice and actually write some things down. So one more tick box exercise. Let me go back. I'd like you to tick one box to show which sentences use a semicolon correctly. Rather than writing all these out, all I want you to do is write out the one sentence that is using the semicolon correctly. That's all you need to do, okay? And then we'll go on to looking at, and this is the green challenge actually, so only green people who normally choose the green challenge, you can have a go at that, please. Look at those carefully, pause the screen, and write out just this one sentence that uses semicolons correctly, please. Okay, let's have a look at the orange challenge. For the orange challenge, I'd like you to tick all of the sentences or write out all of the sentences where the semicolon has been used correctly. So that's what I'd like orange to do. Pause the screen, write out all the times that the semicolon is being used correctly. Orange and red for the last one, should I say? I should have said that really. Orange and red doing that one. Green challenge again, the second part of the green challenge. I'd like you to write out that sentence and then put semicolons in, please, to make that list make sense, to be grammatically correct and punctuated properly. That's the second part of the green challenge today. Pause the video, have a go at that. If you're orange or red, you can carry on letting the video play. Second part for green, pause on that one, do the same for the second part. Red and orange, your next challenge is coming up. Okay, red and orange, I'd like you to rewrite those sentences, please, but put in the punctuation in. And it's not just the semicolon that's missing. So you need to think about the full amount of punctuation, red and orange, to correct those sentences. Pause the screen, have a go at that. Extension challenge for green. I'd like you to finish the sentence with a suitable list. So a list that makes sense to finish off that sentence, remembering to use the semicolons in the right place. Red and green, there is an extension for you coming up. So red and green, I'd like you to have a go at doing that, completing the sentences with a suitable main clause. And then everybody that wants an extra extension, but reds, I definitely want you to do this. I'd like you to use semicolons in a variety of sentences, please, by writing a paragraph about Virgo and Elliot escaping the cage. The cage? The cave. But as it says there, not every sentence needs to contain a semicolon. I just want them used in there somewhere, please. That is everything for today. Make sure you're doing the right challenges. I know they bounced about a little bit today. I should maybe have reordered it, but we live with our mistakes sometimes and make the best of them. Have a go, pausing each of the screens, doing those challenges. Green, that is just for people in the green challenge. The orange ones are for orange and red. And then the red challenge people, I definitely want you to do the extension. Other people, you can if you want to, but you do not need to. I'll speak to you tomorrow with tomorrow's big read and tomorrow's English. But for now, goodbye.